It's going to actually create a lot of friction, oddly enough. These guys have a very specific way in which they want to deal with Julian. You know, this mommy relationship, even, well, I never hated my mom. I love my mom more than anything in the world. But even if you really do not like your mother or have insane amounts of disdain for her, if she has a shitty boyfriend, you hate it even more. And Julian is that guy that comes into her life that they know is just really not a good guy. Even though he's super handsome, he has a great accent, he's a really good actor, he's really not a good dude. But Stefan, where the real conflict comes in, is that Stefan just says, all right, cool, let's just get rid of this guy immediately. But Damon in his sadistic mind doesn't want that. He wants to draw it out. Do you want to grab your questions?
No.
Oh. Damon wants to draw it out. Damon wants her to find that passion again for this man. He wants her to experience true love again. And then once she's settled and happy and super content and living in my house and stuffing this guy in my bed, when she's at this sort of peak of happiness in 6 months where she thinks everything's okay, then Damon wants to swoop in and then hand deliver his heart to her and literally just crush her. This woman, you see in the episodes following this one, you really see this character. You really see why he is the way he is. His mom screwed him up, and he has no bones about saying it. And he never goes back on his word. I hate her. You destroyed me. You broke my heart. And I hate you. And I don't want you to be happy. And I also, furthermore, not only do I not want you to be happy, but I want to orchestrate how to make you the saddest you could possibly be. And he means it. I mean, and this is the same guy who, you know, in season 1 and 2, we really learned that this guy was just a lot of fun, and he really believed in everything he did, even if it was ripping your throat out, unannounced and not provoked. Not warranted, not justified, which very rarely is you getting your throat ripped out justified. But really, you know, it really, we all have been raised by parents. Some parents are amazing, some parents are not. I'm very grateful that I have incredible parents, but parents really screw up their kids. And these two boys, Stefan, luckily weathered the storm so much better. Damon just never recovered. And the two women that he loved the most, which were Catherine and his mother, broke his heart. They pulverized it. And so without having Elena around to sort of soften his heart and talk sense into him, which he actually was not anywhere near as fun, he is a wild card, and he really is hell-bent on making Lily pay.
Can you talk about him, like, possibly working with Bonnie on this? There was this really nice scene in last week's episode where they shared a drink, and they're like, we're going to go after her.
Yeah, you know, that scene surprised me. I was so sad. I had to loop that entire scene because there was a period, the weather started changing a little bit, and all the sawdust and just living in stages, and then all the artificial smoke and everything, the whole crew, we all had sinus infections, we all sounded like Donald Duck a little bit, and I had to loop that whole scene, but I watched the scene over and over and over again, and it's actually a really sweet scene with Bonnie and Damon. And that the reason that scene surprised me so much was ultimately I thought Bonnie would come in and shut him down, but then she actually ended up joining him. So the Bonnie-Damon relationship. I mean, poor Bonnie. He just drags her repeatedly through the mud over and over again, and she still loves him. I don't know why. Crazy woman. But that was a sweet scene, and Bonnie does end up having a lot to do with it, but obviously, unfortunately, at her own expense. You know, I mean, Kat Graham is such a strong actor, and Bonnie is such a strong character that I want her, and you'll see her sort of start coming back into her own and sort of taking a lot less shit, you know. But she just has a huge heart, and when you have a huge heart and everyone wants something from you, it wears you down a little bit. So I think it's time for Bonnie to kick some ass.
Kat just said that you filmed some flashback scenes that she called some of your best work yet, so could you tell us a little bit about what we're going to see from that?
That episode, it was episode 10 that a woman named Deb Chow directed. She's a phenomenal director. Ultimately, you really get to see where Damon Salvatore came from. You get to see this profound relationship with his mother. You really get to understand how he got to be the man he is. And that episode almost killed me. I lost 6 pounds from Monday to Friday. It was magical. It was amazing. And it was the first time I'd ever, other than season 1, maybe episode like 3 to maybe 6 or something, it was the first time I ever looked around this setup of this scene of this show with all the artisans and all the set and wardrobe and producers and writers and the director and the set deck and all the effects and everything, and looked around and said, wow, this feels like we're literally shooting Saving Private Ryan or some big, giant, beautifully orchestrated. And it was the first time I ever looked around and said, wow, these people are working so hard that this episode should be submitted for every type of award, because these people are working so unbelievably hard. Granted, I know this is a vampire teen soap opera, but I will tell you that episode, I hope and pray they cut it the way it read and the way we shot it, because it was very, very, very powerful. It kicked my ass. But it's an incredible episode. I think it's obviously not because it was all me, I'm saying, but it was the most beautifully, perfectly constructed episode. I couldn't find one thing wrong with the script. I mean, it was literally just so powerful. So without giving anything away, yes, you will see some very, very cool, you'll go back in time and really see what happened to Damon. And then the episode, when it leaves off, you see a profoundly disoriented, scared, sad man that is just like a caged animal. And it's very cool. It's very, very, very cool.
Paul talked earlier about how he thinks that y'all's characters have really gone back to how you were in season 1. Do you feel the same way? And so
yeah, that's why we love this season so much. I mean, I think we were all prepared for a massive departure, which was Vampire Diaries, or let me rephrase that, Mystic Falls without Elena Gilbert. I think we, by virtue of the last frame of season 6 that we saw, depicted this world that looked very dark and very challenging and of a mood that we hadn't seen. It wasn't a glossy CW beautiful situation. It was actually really dark. And that's kind of ultimately where we thought we would go. But that departure never happened, really. But what has started to happen is these episodes have gotten where we're now really able to focus on what the centers of this show was always about, which is the relationship with these two boys and these two brothers in this town, and all the crazy shit that happens to them. And now we have this really incredible supporting cast. This is like it's a big ensemble, but we have all the Heretics that have come in who are very dedicated, phenomenal actors. They all have really great accents too. And what's left of the cast is just very, very dialed in. You've all now been playing these characters for so long and really loving the story and having a blast with it, George has also been really good to us. It's kind of an Indian summer, or it could just be the effects of climate change, but it's been really beautiful and warm, and so we've been graced by kind of amazing weather, and so it's not as hard, but that's going to start changing. When you're doing night exteriors day in and day out, and it gets cold down here now, and it's 12 degrees, and you're trying to do a scene, and it adds a whole new layer. And so we're about to go into this kind of crazy winter storm of what Vampire Diaries is. And it actually is kind of cool because it adds a really interesting flair. It adds a real element of, wow, this is hard. And it pushes us even more, which makes us work even harder. So it's cool, man. It's literally one day at a time. I mean, I'm processing so much information right now. I just want to I want to understand where we are, and leading up to the one that I'm directing, which is pretty soon. I would really love to understand where we're going, so I can be uber prepared. And the last time I just got so lucky with the script. Brian and Caroline wrote such a cool episode, and it was just so much fun to shoot. I don't know if any of you saw that episode that I directed, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm so thankful to the network and the studio for trusting me with a couple $1 million of their money to not completely ruin an episode of television. But it really is a phenomenon. That's when you realize the extent of how incredible this team is. So I'm really excited about it.
So
What else? Talk to me.
Last week we got to see some flash forwards. Are we going to be seeing more about Damon's flash forward? And if we are, is he where he wants to be in the next few years?
Damon is never going to be where he wants to be. Damon is that guy. I mean, we've seen it systematically. At 170-something years old, this guy makes the worst decision. He was 170 plus years old. For 2 years, he was dating an 18-year-old. First of all, maybe not the best decision. There's a bit of an age gap. And what's interesting about the flash forwards is being able to bookend each episode with this flash forward 3 years into the future, because you basically get to see the characters 3 years in the future, and then you cut to present time. And so you just get a different flair. It actually, it mixes up the format, which is super cool. You definitely see Damon in some of these flash forwards. Is he where he wants to be? I mean, is anyone where they want to be? Especially this poor bastard. I would venture to say no, but it's always, what's cool about this is that, unlike real people, their struggle and their sorrow and their misery is our entertainment. So, no, beat him down.
Could you talk a little bit about the journey from, in present day, Damon is trying to do right by Elena by living, and in the flash forwards we see that he's voluntarily desiccated himself to wake up when she wakes up. So can you talk about, what we're going to see from that journey, from where he gets from present day to the 3 years from now flash forward?
Gee, thanks for that really simple question. No, I'm
So the
joking. I
fans
apologize.
are dying to know.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I'll have to construct that one in my very tired, cluttered little brain right now. I guess what you're asking is is the trajectory from him wanting to just desiccate himself. So actually, just repeat it, and let me just kind of.
Well, in present day, he just decided to do right by Elena by living, and he, gave her body to Tyler to watch over, so it's not always with him. And so in the flash forwards, he's desiccated himself to
Right.
wait for her. So like, is there going to be something major that happens to make him change his mind, or is it going to be kind of a slower burn?
There, to answer your question, there's some really major stuff that happens. There's a lot of major shit, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, yes, there's a lot. There's a lot. Well, because ultimately, it's a huge arc of this man, I'll never forget Kevin Williamson having to sit me down, season, you sign up for a character. This is like doing a television show, 22 episode show. Season 1, after season 1 was over and going into 2, I remember Damon found Rose, and he was supposed to just be in love with this Rose chick. And I said, guys, how, and they had to explain to me, it's not that he's in love with her, it's that she makes him feel a certain way and evokes something in him that actually is more powerful than just being in love with her. But I was so pissed. I was like, Damon is not some ooey gooey, lover boy. And Kevin had to sit down with me and he goes, literally, it was like drilling into concrete. But he said, you have to realize, this is like 100 episode arc of a man. So you can't just be a one-trick pony. You can't just be a villain for 6 years of your life. People are going to be so bored. There has to be ups and downs, ins and outs, left and rights. And I just didn't want to hear it. But I'm glad they eventually made me see the light. Well, and then I had to just do it anyway. That's what they say. But it made me realize that this is a huge arc of this man. And so it's not necessarily a slow burn, but there's a lot that happens in regards to Elena and him and where he's going and the path that he's going to have to take to get there. And ultimately, how much is his mother going to affect him? How crazy is it going to make him? What stupid things is he going to do? And at the end of the day, is he going to, is he going to have his brother? Are they going to, because, people come and go out of your life, but the true love of family, the true blood brother love is beyond powerful. And so it's a very, very, very cool way to be able to tell this story about these two brothers who love each other through thick and thin and who will do anything for one another. But this man, Damon, is a highly complex, but at the end of the day, a man, but at the end of the day, he's like most of us men. In so many ways, is just a scared little boy, just trying to navigate the sort of treacherous landscape of life. And the odd thing is this poor bastard, after 174 years of being alive, still just makes the dumbest mistakes. But it's entertaining as hell to us. And so you can rest assured that he will continue to do his best and make these big, giant, stupid mistakes and continue to entertain us. But I'll tell you, as this season is progressing, it really does get very cool and very deep. And I love that because we have the ability to be funnier and edgier and sexier and darker. And it's what made this show this show.